Have you heard the one about my aunts and my cousins? Well, I'll be talking a little bit about my family, and I do believe we are like raised by a tribe, and it really did take a lot to get me to adulthood. So part of this is like what I am grateful for in terms of family, but also just how weird family can be, like how we're intertwined and how we're not, and being an adult with family. So my mother was the oldest of three girls. So it was my mother, and then it was my Aunt Carla, and then my Aunt Marsha. My mom was basically the black sheep of the family. So, she would do everything and, not get caught, do things to piss off my grandmother, do things to make my grandmother happy, anything, but just was, took a lot of the focus of my grandparents, who were her parents, because she had this crazy up and down life. Now, as it came to my aunts, my Aunt Marcia, she was in California for most of my childhood. I kind of thought of her like she was the youngest, and I thought of her like a movie star. Like, oh my gosh, she's doing all the fun things in California, and like, ooh, what a dream. She's living the dream. But I didn't, I mean, she would always reach out and send gifts, and just, it was sweet. And I didn't get to really know her until I was a little bit older. But Carla was like a second mom to me. She was the middle of the three girls, and she lived two doors down from where I was raised with my grandparents, with her parents. So she lived two doors down from her parents, so that must have been fun. But Carla was this artist type, and I think, they still do artsy, craftsy things together, Marcia and Carla, but Carla would be always like taking photographs, and she had a dark room in her house, and animals. She just had tons and tons of animals, and I would go there as an escape. Uh, you know, she had this beautiful mimosa tree in the front, and to this day, that's my favorite tree. And I remember I would climb that tree and sit in that tree. And I remember when Braun was this boy that I loved, and I guess pre-K, I don't even know, I was like little. And he moved away. And I remember just sitting in that mimosa tree, pining after Braun, and just Carla being, she was in her 20s, she was cool, and she let me like drink Dr. Pepper for breakfast. And it was just, things that I needed because I didn't have a lot of young energy growing up. So we would sit, listen to records, play with all her like kittens and bunnies and all the animals. She had a goat. All right, I'll tell the goat story, but I'll tell the goat story in a minute. And there was just this fun for me as a kid because it was like always exploring and just being able to be around her. She had a friend, and this was my first like interaction with what you now call, like, I guess, a non-binary. I don't even know. So Bobby was I know in my 5-year-old, 6-year-old brain was a female, but wanted to be a male. And we didn't have the words like they and them and all that back then. I mean, we had we had those words, but we didn't use them like we use them now. And so I just remember Bobby being, we just would, only confusing part in my little brain was how to structure a sentence. So like, what did Bobby say? Where did Bobby go? We just used the name, and it was fine. And so that that part of growing up, it mirrors like what's kind of happening now, and how I was a tomboy growing up, and I was always trying to like kiss my elbow and like be a boy. I think honestly, with the amount of man bashing my grandmother did, like Bobby was the closest to a male figure that was going to be coming around. It just, my grandmother really had it out for men, like castrated them emotionally. And just, I mean, I don't know how Al stuck around. So like Al stuck around, but like most everybody that came around to like date Carla, or you know, even my mom would bring probably men around. Oh, my grandma would have had nothing to do with it. And I think that lingered in our perspective of like the male female role in growing up. I know for me, I had to really break that feeling of like man bashing. I mean, I still kind of do it. I try not to, because I mean, I have a wonderful husband who I married out of love, not like necessity. And then I ended up having a boy. So it's like I kind of had to nip that in the bud. So, so growing up, like not a lot, like my grandfather was an amazingly strong, like like I told you before, I called him Big Papa. He was this huge man, but my grandmother still squashed him pretty good. So like having Bobby around, and then having like some of the friends around, I think honestly, I was being raised to be a lesbian. I do believe that I probably would not have like grown out of that man bashing if it weren't for like Carla ended up getting married, and my mother, moving in with Al. So it's like trying to get those male figures into the house was actually kind of helpful. Even as kooky as Al was, it was helpful, because it's like I know for Carla, living as a single woman, it was probably very difficult. I know she was attacked in her home. Like she got hit on the head with like a 2x4. And I remember feeling not scared, very concerned, and because they didn't know who it was. And I remember hearing stories about like, oh, she walked in and that person was smoking a cigarette, like waiting for her, and how scared she must have been. And like she, was injured. And then of course my grandmother was like, oh, it was Bobby. And like even my little baby brain and everybody else was like, you're insane. Quit trying to like push everybody who ever cared about us out of the family. So like I would love to talk to Carla now and figure out if she ever found out who attacked her, because that was definitely something. But Bobby was the one that did end up murdering the goat, though. It wasn't me. So the pet goat Baba, here's a story. So the pet goat Baba was really the lawnmower for Carla, and would eat anything that like was on the ground, like in the grass, and just kind of hung around. I guess Baba became a pain in the butt because all of a sudden we've got chicken for dinner, and I'm going to tell you, it was the best chicken I ever had, because it wasn't chicken, it was goat. And it's like I even knew like, oh, this is Baba, but it didn't bother me. I kept eating because it was that good. So I guess that's my story about the goat. Um, I am an evil human being and I just eat my pets. No, it's farm life. It's like a farm life, even though we were not really in the farm, we were suburban. But eventually, my Aunt Carla had a little baby girl, my cousin. And I remember growing up, it was nice to have this cousin of mine near me. And I remember she used to bite the living heck out of me, though. Oh my goodness, she used to bite me. And but I remember the one time we bonded, and she was like making a mess with pudding, and her and I just started to giggle. She was a little baby, and I remember that was it. I was like, this is what it is to have like a sister or a cousin, and watching her grow up, she didn't have the easiest life. I think a lot of it had to do with not having the male figure around, having, a single mom in the ghetto, because, we lived not in the greatest of neighborhoods. And she didn't get my grandfather as much as I got mine. My grandfather, like we didn't, he died. So like I got him a lot longer than she got to take advantage of that love. And I always tried to protect her, and I just feel like I failed with that. I remember we went to the same school together, and like the boys would call her evil girl. Like, here comes evil girl. And I never knew why. Like there was definitely was some demons up in our business. So like there was definitely something that attached to her at a young age. And I think going through some hard times for her was what formed her into who she is, whether it be good, whether it be bad. Her character is strong, and she ended up being a beautiful adult. But it was hard. It was hard, I think, for me to know the pains that she went through. So I can only imagine that her mother must have had hard times. She, of course, had hard times. And she just got married not too long ago, so that is very exciting for her. And once my Aunt Carla did get married, she ended up having a stepson because she married into a family and then had another little baby girl who is now about to have a baby. And we never really had too much connection because I was much, much older when she was born. And I do remember once I moved to Jersey, I tried to bring one of them at a time, all right, for New Year's 1999, Robin came, that's my oldest cousin, and we spent New Year's together. I think I made her go out with my boyfriend's brother, and but I just wanted them to get a taste of like what it is to get out. And I think, I did that with Zoe when I was married. I think I had just had Max, and I brought Zoe in, and we did like all the active stuff because she was young. So we did like trapeze and surfing and all the things. And so I always wanted to give them a taste of escape because I got out. That's what I felt, at least. It's like I felt like I escaped the madness, like I ran. And where my mother would run away, but into the arms of unhealthy things, I felt like I tried to run away into more of a healthy path. And I know that that was probably what Marsha, who was in California, was trying to do. And I know that a lot of things fell onto my Aunt Carla, and because she stayed, basically because she stayed. And when my mother passed away, they both, like Marsha had been moved back into Texas, and I think they lost it a little bit. And I mean, we all lost it a little bit, but my grandmother had passed. We dealt with it. My grandfather passed before her. We dealt with it. But when my mother passed away, I think everybody lost a little bit of their sanity. So I know that my aunts came on hard times and had some issues, and now they're living in the house that I grew up in. And I hope that they're happy. I feel like after my mom passed, we don't talk as much. And it's like there's this underlying knowledge that we want to connect and we want to touch base, and we apologize every time we do finally talk, like, oh, it's been too long, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if it needs fixing. I think as you get older and you form your new tribes and you form your new families and you form your new life, then the families from your past become mostly memories. And it's like, even if they are alive, and everybody's striving, everybody's alive, everybody's doing stuff, it's that pocket of time that I needed them so desperately. That's where my head goes. That's where I remember. Because it's like now I'm an adult, I don't it's like I need very little. I don't need a second mom. I don't need a third mom. I don't need dads. I don't need grandparents. I don't really need them. And so it comes down to wanting. And when, you want family, it makes it a little complicated. So it's like I do miss my family. And I hope that having my my little cousin, bring in this new baby boy, which is another baby boy, break that curse, bang, bang, bang. I think that's gonna bring new life into this family. And I hope that it will bring new discussions in healing, and new discussions in relationships, and new discussions within our tribe. And that's all I can pray for.